The Survivor Specialists are back, and once again, we are joined by Russell Muscle TV as we continue our Survivor Second Chances 2 series. Today, we are talking about the new era tribe. Russell, he put together a video yesterday revealing it, and he did quite a Jeff Probst impersonation, had a lot of fun with it, so that was good. Will and I will be doing our cast assessment for season 46 immediately following this video, so if you're interested in that, make sure you check that out right after this. But we're starting here. This is our lead in. This is our 8 o'clock hour, beginning of prime time. This was fun, and I'm really happy with how the votes turned out, not because of necessarily people who were in or out, just because there were some surprises across the board. And Russell, even when you were doing your video, there were certain points where if I was watching that as a fan, probably would have said, oh, okay, like Ricard or Shan are getting in. That's why we did this. That was not the case. We ended up leaving both of them off, and there's actually nobody from season 41 who made the final cut. So welcome back, everybody. Glad to be here.
Which is crazy because 41, I feel like I know a lot of people don't like the season, but had like a lot of really good cast members and like a lot of people that could have returned and people that I would like to see return.
Yeah, and we touched on that in that first video. I know, Phil, you hate Survivor 41, but you praised most of the cast, all the women on the cast. You thought they were amazing. And here we are. None of them got on. I got to say, I lost a few subscribers after posting that video. I think a lot of people were upset with the people that didn't get on the cast, but it's all good. We'll make it through.
I do love how personally people take this kind of thing where like you put together this fun video, right? You put together this fun series, and some people, man, they're just like, we hate you now and we will never listen to your opinion again because you put up these 10 names. Don't even listen to our reasoning. I don't think that there was one non-sound reasoning the entire time, except for when Will put Kellen on instead of Aaron, because I'll tell you what, guys, right now, Kellen, I love you. She is setting the record for like lowest percentage of votes, maybe in the history of anything.
Get out there and vote for Kellen.
I'm going to be honest, dude. Like,
it's embarrassing.
Like, Russell, I know you're in Canada. We live in America, which is a two-party system, and I'm pretty sure third-party people get more votes than Kellen is getting right now, percentage-wise. So, Will, well done with that. But you know, our reasoning was there for pretty much everybody we did. And honestly, I was a little shocked with the votes. So we're going to break this down. We're going to talk about this tribe, kind of how they would interact. A lot of the love really did come, Russell, you sent it over, from season 45, which doesn't surprise me. It's the most recent season. It's the one that's fresh in everybody's mind. But the biggest nail biter of this entire thing was Sabaya versus Shan. So I'm gonna read off the cast here for anybody who's listening at home, because Russell already revealed it. So this isn't the reveal podcast. We're just discussing it. So go check out Russell's video. Will, what do you want to say?
I want to make sure if you haven't seen Russell's video, I would go watch that before you continue listening to this, because the video reveal is a much more fun way than just listening to us rattle off the names. And it's super fun to watch, super suspenseful. Phil, you already spoiled some of it. So before you spoil any more of it, Russell did an amazing job, and like your favorite on the bus, like the bus kept appearing. It just got me every time. I thought it was so much fun. So I want to give props to Russell before we dive in, and definitely check that out if you haven't.
We're driving to Fiji. Get on the bus. We're going to
Get on the bus. Exactly. We're driving to Fiji. It's so funny.
So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read off who we have, and then we'll kind of get into these numbers and how we think this will go. So Survivor 41 had nobody. Although Russell's video did have somebody, so make sure you check that out. Survivor 42 had Omer. Survivor 43 had Cassidy, Jesse, Cody. Survivor 44 had Carolyn. And then Survivor 45, as already said, was the most popular, had Caleb, Jake, Emily, Kelly, and Sabaya. But the most intense one, and I kept telling everybody, keep voting, keep voting, keep voting. The bottom of the women bracket was insane. Carolyn ran away with it. She got 76.5% of the vote. She was going to get in, or not 76.5. What did she get? She got 77.3. She was in. There was no doubt about it. 907 votes. She appeared on a lot of ballots. But at the bottom, between Tori, Sabaya, and Shan, we would text each other. And when we were talking about, Tori was in the 5th spot for a lot of the voting. And we would text each other and we would be like, I can't believe people actually like Tori that much. I put her name out there just as kind of like a throwaway name, not realizing that she had such a following. Tori was really close, and Shan was leading until the final 2 days. And then Sabaya just took over. This is how close it was. Shan ended up with 614 votes, and Sabaya, who got in as the last person in, ended with 628. So Sabaya beat her by 14 votes. That was it. Tori ended up with 561, so it looks like she was a little bit further behind than she really was, because I'm telling you, with a week left in voting, Tori was 5 votes away from Shan. It was crazy close. So really, it was a lot of fun to watch that come in, and I was surprised that Sabaya ultimately got over the hump, because I thought more people would say, well, let me give some love to season 41, just because nobody was voting for Ellie and nobody was voting for Tiffany. They both ended, well, Ellie wasn't season 41, but that doesn't matter. Tiffany, Ellie, and Sydney were a clear bottom 3 out of this bunch, and 2 of those were 41 people, so I would have thought people would have thrown votes at Shannon. It just didn't happen.
Yeah, and I mean, think about where we were a few years ago for Survivor 41. Love her or hate her, Shan was a presence on our television screen from episode 1, the Shantham. Now, I think near the end, a lot of people more hated Shan than loved her, but still, it was a character that you thought about. Like, we were talking about, you were talking about it on these podcasts. I was talking about it in my videos. People were talking about Shan constantly. And so when you get to these voting, I don't want to say there was a little too much recency bias. There definitely was. But what was wrong with the Shan vote? I think that was one of the most surprising votes of the whole thing. One that Sabaya didn't get on, where Sabaya did get on. We'll talk about the Survivor 45 crew and how they'll interact later. But why don't you think Shan got on?
Because of the challenge.
Yeah.
I think she went and played the challenge, and I think that people did not like her on the challenge, because the challenge didn't start off, and I didn't watch this season. I'm just going based on what people have told me, what I've read, so whatever. But when Shan started off on season 41, people loved her, and then she kind of took her villain heel turn. In the challenge, I think it was all what we saw in the second half of the game from Shan. And I don't think people like that. And I think that's ultimately why she didn't get the votes. I think a lot of the comments, when I would say, who is the biggest snub, or who do you want to see? Who's the number one? A lot of people were saying, like, they don't want Shan because they watched her on the challenge. They don't need to see her ever play again. I don't know what to really read into that, because I didn't watch that season, but that was the main reason I was hearing for not picking Shan.
Interesting.
She was in the thumbnail. I mean, we had her. She was almost our lock, like, to put on the ballot. We never going to put anybody on without the votes, but we were considering it was Carolyn or Shan were the 2 names that we discuss as one of these. We're just going to start off our first podcast doing this. We're going to lock a name for the ballot. It ended up being Carolyn, but Shan was right there. So, yeah, it is surprising. But I think that it all makes sense that, yeah, people loved her in the first half of the game, fan favorite, and then she kind of took a turn for the worse. So, and, you know, season 41 did air the longest time ago. And so, yeah, recency bias for sure has played a role. And I wonder how that will affect the old school, because we don't have like something super recent. Obviously, we have a lot of players from the 30s that are more recent, but we don't have one season is not like top of mind. Like, we are coming off 45, just finishing. Still, you know, it was a pretty well-received, well-liked season. There's still buzz from that. So I think that does make sense that we had. I mean, they're 5. Half of this tribe is from 45.
Half of the tribe is from 45, which, again, like, you can say, man, that's too much. But when we did the first second chance season, 4 of the people were from the same season.
Yep.
So it's really not.
But it is different, though, because they split those up, I believe, 2 and 2 on their starting tribes. Here, because we are doing new era versus old school, it is unique in the fact that we have 5 players from the same season. And hey, maybe that's an alliance right off the bat.
But I will say, what this voting proved is that with season 46 coming up, Sabaya is probably getting kicked off of that. So at most, you'd probably end up with 4. Sabaya is really like clinging to that last spot. And who knows? I mean, maybe she'll age like fine wine and people will like her more. That is a good point. And 3 of the people from 45 were on the same starting tribe. It's from that disastrous yellow tribe, which is so funny that we ended up with Emily, Sabaya, and Caleb. And
they would all work together.
Yep.
They would, but I don't necessarily think that would automatically mean Kelly and who's the other one? Jake. I don't know if Kelly and Jake would necessarily be lumped into that mix. I feel like Jake would come out swinging a little bit harder and maybe try to get rid of some of the people who had wronged him early on. But I want to change subject real quick.
Yeah.
The most shocking one to me is how lopsided the men's vote was. This is by far, I mean, the old school we're going to be revealing next week, and we'll be talking about it then. But the old school voting right now, especially for the women, the top 8 are like right on top of each other. Any of them could end up getting in, any of them except for Angelina could end up getting cut. But when it comes to and you know, the old school men, it's very close to, even though there's some stragglers. When it came to the new school men, the gap between Cody and Ricard, who were 5 and 6, was 14% of the votes. 14%. Like, you're talking, Jesse had 79%, Caleb had 76%, Omer had 74%. Those 3 people were appearing on 3/4 of the ballots. Jake was 59%, Cody was 54%, and then Ricard was all the way down there at 40%. I thought Ricard would have given a run for it. And I also thought JD would have given a run because I thought people would have gone with pre-merge thinking and said either him or Matthew, let's put him on the ballot. Instead, this was one where after like the first 5 days of voting, I was like, Russell, you might as well just start making the video on these guys now because I can tell you exactly who it's going to be. And it never changed.
Yeah, I don't know why this is. Like, new era casting, they went with new editing tricks in the new era of Survivor. Like we said, the woman was a little bit tighter. The old school players, they were a little bit tighter. It was something about this group of new era men that people had their favorites and they knew right away. Now, if we get a few more seasons, I could see maybe people were voting for Cody with lumping Jesse and Cody together. Maybe people don't vote for Jake as much, the recency bias there. So it might change a little bit, but people knew their new era male favorites right away, which is insane.
And if we would have put Carson in, which was probably the most controversial pick we did, was not putting Carson into this, I don't necessarily know. Yeah, it would have been a closer top 6, but I don't even necessarily know if Carson's a lock here. Everybody was saying Carson's a lock, Carson's a lock. I really don't think he would have been. I think that top 5 plus Carson would have made it closer. Maybe Carson gets in, but that's a really tight top 5. And there's a massive
gap.
Because
I mean, Cody was still on 54% of the ballots. So that's your bench line. You think Carson would be on, a little over half the ballots?
Maybe, because on the women's side, 6 people got over half the ballots. And 7 with Tori was 47%. So I do think that there probably would have been a chance that Carson would have been up close to that 50%. I think Carson and Cody probably would have been splitting. And then it would have just been, are people tired of Carson or not? I mean, Carson was doing a lot of tongue-in-cheek tweeting today with the Survivor 46 cast announcement about, like, don't make pillows, don't make puzzles, and people will like you. And, like, I get it. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's funny. But I also do understand.
What are the pillows?
He was selling pillows at the beginning.
It was so weird.
Yeah. Wait, so, like, pillows and puzzles? Is that, like, that's not a combo I'm familiar with.
So at the start of when the 44 cast was released, he did some print-on-demand pillows with a big picture of his face on the day the cast was released. And it went wild on Reddit, on Twitter, everything. It was crazy.
So it's just a picture of Carson's face on a pillow.
Yep.
You're saying you don't want that?
I can order for you right now if you want it.
I don't know. It seems like, he's doing his 3D printing puzzle thing where you're using a specific tool to make a specific item, and then, like, you're lumping in, like, pillows with that. It just doesn't seem how those two go together.
Well, the pillows were long before the puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
The pillows were long before the puzzles. The puzzles didn't start coming until after everything was said and done. He started doing that in the off season or right at the end of last season.
Damn,
I will say
so much.
One of the things I thought was so interesting was, spoiler alert, check out my video, but Shannon Ricard, I started the video off saying, okay, who's going to make it here? We have Shan on the girls' side, 6th place. We have Ricard on the men's side, 6th place. So I'm so surprised that Ricard and Shan, obviously, I thought one of them or both of them would have got on, and it would have been a crazy thing to see them on the same tribe again. But just crazy how these things work out sometimes. Seeing them both in that 6th spot was crazy.
Yeah, and then JD jumps in at 7. So there's that whole tribe, 6 and 7.
What's crazy too is that Jesse got a higher percentage of votes than Carolyn. So, like, Carolyn, who we thought was the runaway, Jesse ran away even further ahead.
I do think that might come down to the fact that Jesse was in everyone's top 5 because that top 5 was so clear. Whereas Carolyn, maybe the competition on the women's side was stronger than we thought it was. So on the women's side, 9 of the 10 women got at least 33% of the vote. On the men's side, only 6 of the 10 men got 33% of the vote. So it's like people were a lot more split. I think there are, for as much as people will say, why would you put Tiffany on there? Why would you put Sydney on there? Why would you put Ellie on there? There are more fans of those people than maybe there are of Mike Turner and Xander. There's more
for
stands
sure.
of the women.
I mean,
players.
we can
Maybe
look.
that's what it comes down
We
to.
can absolutely look and see it where it's like, Sydney and Tiffany, say what you will, season 41, Sydney got 35%. It was on 35% of ballots, and Tiffany was on 33%. And Mike and Xander and Matthew from 43, or was that 44? 44. He only got he got 30.8, and then Xander 29 and Mike Turner 23. So those are some low numbers for the bottom tier. And JD at 32%. I love JD. He made a cameo in that video. Go check it out. But all 4 of those guys are below the 9th place woman, who's Tiffany.
Yeah.
Who
Let's play a fun little game here. Phil, we'll start with you. Who is someone on, we'll start women and then men after. Who is someone from the woman that didn't get on that you would have preferred got on? And then we'll say who you would have preferred to switch it out with.
And I get to pick?
Yeah. We'll go through everyone.
Well, go through all it's your opinion. So, you get
no. I'm more saying I'm just saying anyone. It doesn't really matter percentage wise. Okay. Because I guess the reason I'm asking that is because it's not, I would rather have Shannon than Sabaya because that's the 6'5" spot. The one I said right off the bat was Ellie. Ellie was my number 1 pick for this kind of thing. She didn't get the votes. She ended up with the lowest percentage out of any of the women. And
almost like a Kellen pick.
No, it's not near. You're going to be shocked at the percentage of Kellen votes right now. It's insane. Kellen is a full 10% below what Ellie's at right now, and Ellie was at 24.5. So, just throwing that out there.
But it's tougher competition, though. I mean, you
sure,
got
sure, whatever you got to say to pat yourself on the back. But I loved Ellie. I really think that Ellie is somebody who, in the grand scheme of things, is a really good character and survivor fit. She really does fit it. And I think she was so cocky and so overly arrogant going up against Gabler. She kind of reminds me of Amy from Survivor Vanuatu. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it was, she was so in control and felt like there's nothing that can go wrong here. And then it just gets pulled out from under her because she just doesn't think that anybody on the other side can make this happen. Gabler makes it happen. Ellie goes home. She doesn't even make the jury. I think that she would have been phenomenal for this kind of season. And I hope that Survivor doesn't necessarily forget about her because, look, this is a small portion of the Survivor community voting for this. And I love everybody who took the time and voted. Thank you a lot. But I do think I was really surprised Tiff got so few votes. I thought she was going to get more votes. I thought people liked her a lot more, but maybe Carolyn kind of jumped into that. Different kind of person in there. But yeah, Ellie would have been my number 1. Ellie, if I was voting, I would have voted Ellie every single time. And I probably would have, out of everybody who's on here right now, I probably would have left off Emily just because I do feel like we might have seen the game that Emily's going to play. To me, she's got a Yao Man downside coming back a second time.
Yeah. Will, what about you?
I'm actually very happy. I don't know if I'm looking at this. If Shan had made it on, I think I'd said when we went through the names that I don't need to see Shan play a game. I think we saw so much of her game. Now was this my top 5? I'm trying to see if I can pull up my original top 5. I feel like this might have been my exact top 5. Which is crazy that these 5 were the names. I think if I want somebody on here the most, I would probably go Tiffany. I just think Tiffany brings a really fun energy, and she feels different than some of the other cast members, and so I would go Tiffany over. Man, it's tough. I would go Tiffany. I'll go over Cassidy, even though I do think just to answer the question, I think Cassidy was in my top 5, and I want to see Cassidy play again, but I'll put Tiffany in there for now, because Cassidy, I don't feel like she's as robbed as some people might think, and I think that's why she got on, and I think that's part of the reason for her popularity. I did think she played a good game. I just think that was a crazy, insane season dominated by one player who didn't end up in the final 3. Yeah. And I don't think if any of those players win or lose, I don't think you can say they're robbed, because none of them were playing as good of a game as the guy who got 4th place. So I would be okay, taking Cassidy off, but I do love Cassidy.
I'm looking at my paper here too, and it's actually Kelly who I would have left off based on what I wrote a month ago. Kelly was my bottom pick out of the 5 who were there. Emily was 1 spot above her. Sabaya above her. I actually had Sydney up there too, but Ellie I had higher than Sydney. So Ellie's who I would have picked. But yeah, I agree. We got this comment here, and I just want to bring this up before we get into Russell, your answer to this. But we have Paulie Lou saying, I like it, but would just like one person from 41 at least, but it's interesting. And I wonder, like, in this type of fan vote, if Survivor were to ever do something like this again, how would they handle that? Because if they're going to open it up to a fan vote and say, okay, it's actually going to be a fan vote, then they have to not care. And like, I'm sitting there watching this and I'm going, damn, the person I put out first literally didn't matter to anybody when I put out Ellie. And that sucks. And like, if I was like the producer of this show, maybe I would say, hey, screw you guys, your votes don't count. But that's just the way the votes shook. And it's interesting what people favored and what they were looking at and what they were interested in and what was important to each individual voter. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this went, even if I think the bottom 3 women are all women who absolutely Survivor might ask back again. And you all should not be shocked if you see that, even though on this podcast, they were the bottom 3 vote getters.
Yeah. Well, remember, they're the bottom 3 out of 10 names, which is still very, very, just getting on the ballot is not easy. I mean, the amount of names
the table, the chair.
Yes, we have tables, we have chairs, we are killing people. You were tossing up names, and I was going, no, Noelle, no, Lindsay, no, other Lindsay. Yeah, maybe Franny. No, we need Kellen.
No.
So it was tough. I mean, just to pick 10 names. And so, like, I don't think you look at these numbers of even Ellie or Tiffany or Sydney and be like, oh, no one likes them. Just because it is competitive and it was they've already cleared a very impressive threshold, is what I'm saying.
Now, Russell, what would you say? Who did you want on here?
Yeah, well, I gotta say first, although this is a smaller percentage of the Survivor community as a whole, Carolyn still got over 900 votes. Like, let's not pretend like this is no small feat. Like, this was a great thing. Everyone in chat, everyone who's watching this podcast afterwards, like, we did a really good job here bringing a little Survivor community together and having a little vote. Like, although it's not the full representation of the entire community, this is probably sort of what it would look like, especially the online, the super fan community. Now, the casuals, a little bit different, but...
And they're probably not going to vote.
Exactly.
They're probably not.
Yeah, I'm going with the person who I think fits the theme of second chance the most, getting screwed by the hourglass. I'm going Sydney. I think Sydney just fits the theme. I think confessionals, I think Survivor wants to bring her back one day, not to saying anyone else on the ballot they don't, but I think she'd fit really well. And I would say over her, Kelly. Yeah,
Kelly came out really hot at the beginning of this, and she ended up getting the 3rd most votes, but she was clearly running away. It was Carolyn, Emily, and Kelly running away with it. And then Cassidy really closed that gap. And Cassidy was, at one point, I was like, man, are people like that over Cassidy that they're not even going to put Cassidy on? And Cassidy really started to close the gap, and Sabaya started to close the gap. And all of a sudden, I got to the point where I said, wait, is Kelly going to hold on? Because I think the Kelly stands came out really, really early and said, I want to vote for Kelly. And that's what really carried her through. I'd almost guarantee, and I'm not going to go look through all 1,500 ballots or whatever we got, but I would almost guarantee that if this went another week, I don't think Kelly would have ended up hanging on, because all of her votes were coming from the beginning of this. So yeah, I mean, I like Sydney. I think Sydney, you're right, Russell. She fits the theme the best out of anyone. And anybody who's asking what people actually made the cast, go look at the thumbnail that Austin Garso made for us. That thumbnail shows all 10 people because, as we said, Russell revealed the cast yesterday. And if you haven't watched that video, go check out that video. But you can kind of, if you're just trying to follow along with the podcast, go look at the thumbnail because the thumbnail says everybody who's in there. All right. Well, who was the man that you would have liked to see? Let's see how much of a panderer you are. Let's go.
For me, it doesn't even have to be somebody that was on the ballot, or can I just pick someone that didn't make it?
Do someone on the ballot, and then if you want to do someone who didn't make it,
I really want to see Carson come back. So that
you.
Really disappointed that he didn't even make the ballot. I don't know how you two didn't agree to put him on.
I just want everybody to remember that if it wasn't for Will, Carson not only would have been on the ballot, he would have been on this season. And Will was the one producer so out of touch with the community that he fought hard against it, but he just happens to be a powerful.
You guys agreed. This is a 3-person
I did not
show.
agree.
Russell
agreed. I did not agree.
Okay,
I did
that's
not
fine.
agree.
It wasn't just me. It was me and Russell then.
I wanted Heather.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
You did want Heather. Okay, let me look at the men here.
Jake, buddy. So shout out to Jake in chat right now if that's the real Jake. He was gonna get me a little cameo as well. Unfortunately, he had a busy partying weekend. So Jake, hope you're feeling okay right now.
Well, Jake, I hope that's you too. Hello.
This one's really, really tough for me, but I like the group here, but I think I'm gonna go Xander as the person. He got 29.4% of the votes. I think this is a kind of just the season 41 curse of this all, that maybe, hey, people didn't like the season and how it went up. It left a bad taste in people's mouth. And I know maybe Xander wasn't really well liked by some people in the community, which, hey, it's fine. Everyone can have their own opinions and taste. For me, I think Xander was someone who played like a pretty solid game, but just like, I think he was, too young to get the votes at the end, and kind of naive to like how he was being perceived, and that he could fit the second chance theme, being a 0 vote finalist and righting that wrong. And he would be like 4 years older, something like that. So that's, I think, a lot of growth that we could see from him. So I would have liked to see Xander get a crack.
Yeah, you got to replace him with someone.
I would replace. Oh man, this is tough.
Remember, Jake's in chat right now.
Tough. I know. No, it wouldn't be Jake. It wouldn't be Jake.
Will loves Jake anyway. Jesse. He's not even lying about
that. Caleb or Cody would be between them. I know everyone loved Caleb so much. I said this when we did the ballot. It's not that I don't think he's a fun character. I just don't think he can get far. I think he's like too big of a threat. Like, I think he has this charming, almost salesperson energy, as Cody might call it, like he called Justine. But the fact that Cody's a salesman himself, but he's got this charm and maybe it's so good that he would, just lure people in and manipulate them and all that. I just don't think he would stand that very good of a shot. So I'd rather see Cody in there. So that would have been my 5. I would have swapped Xander in and popped Caleb out of there.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, I think this is the best 5 we could have gotten from this group. I think if I was going to change anything, I probably would put JD in, and I probably would take Caleb out, even though I really like Caleb, just for the diversity of like pre-merge. We don't have a pre-merger in here, and that's where I'd go with JD. But this is the 5 that I would want. This is like, I think, the best 5 you could have asked for. If I'm looking at my new era men, 1, 2, these are 4 of my top 5 in here, and the other one I had in there was somebody that I ultimately said I don't think we should put them on the ballot, which was Danny McCrae, because he already played the challenge and won the challenge. He doesn't need to do that. But I think this worked out. I think this is the best you're going to do. I am curious if Caleb, how he will age in the Survivor community, because another thing that I have noticed, and like I said, Will and I are going to be doing our 46 cast assessment after this. So whether you're listening to this, watching this, you should watch the 46 cast assessment, because I made a PowerPoint. It's going to be great. You're going to be like, holy crap,
Phil.
This guy's an idiot. But I am noticing that the trend is not stopping of people who grew up with these difficulties and like are underdogs. Caleb is not an underdog. I don't remember what his story was coming into the season, but he's not an underdog. And he screams not an underdog when you talk to him, when you see him, when he's just interacting with other people, when he competes in challenges. He is not an underdog. And if you're looking at New Era, everyone's an underdog. So I do kind of agree with Will that he would be in a lot of trouble at the start of this. So put JD in over Caleb, because I think JD actually fits in better with the entire cast. Because even Jesse, yeah, we all know he's a great player, and like, oh, maybe he won't be seen as an underdog in that way, but he still has the underdog storyline. Caleb does not have the underdog storyline at all, and he's so unique in the New Era because everybody's just an underdog. I mean, I can't wait to talk about 46 because I feel like everybody has like this like rock bottom that they overcame so that they could go out and play Survivor.
Yeah, I think, again, casual versus super fans, whatever you want to call it. I think if Survivor was to ever do this again, hey, Survivor, Jeff, if you're watching this, make sure you do this again. We need to do this. I think it's time to do this again. When you get the Facebook fans involved, I think Xander is a lock, 100%. I think Xander's on no matter what. And I'm not going to use
those are my people, man. Survivor Facebook.
I don't know if that's what you want to be saying right now, Will.
But I don't know. I mean, I think it's.
Will
it's,
doesn't
it's definitely a bad.
Know what he's talking about. Everybody, he doesn't know. Okay, I'm just saying he doesn't know.
They're all the casuals who want like a first boot season every season, and they want Joe to play every season, and like that, right? Is that kind of vibe?
I don't know, man. I just know that like anytime there's every part of the community hates every other part of the community. So I don't know, man. We've all broken off into factions that must just be discussed.
I like the specialist community. Those are my real people.
Those are your real people. Pat ourselves on the back. Hey, we got Jake and we got Xander, so we got the right people on our side here. So what would you do, Russell? Go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going the same idea as you, but a little different approach here. I'm going a pre-merger. I want to fit the second chance theme. Although JD, I know you're amazing. Thank you so much for doing a little video there. I'm going Matthew. I think Matthew has so much in Survivor left to prove. He had so many fun ideas. And I mean, the producers probably pissed at him for climbing on that rock. Mm-hmm. But his ideas, he's a super fan. I want to see, I think Matthew would be such a good character who could make it far on another season of Survivor, because you're going to have people like Jesse's, like Caleb's, who are going to be the front runners of the threat. And Matthew will be able to sneak right in with his amazing strategy.
And they're going to forget he was a threat. Like if he doesn't fall off that thing, he is a threat to win that game. He had an idol in his pocket. He had an idol in his pocket.
And he gave Jamie a fake idol who thought was real the whole time. Like there's so many storylines with him. We don't need to go into that. But I think Matthew is he would have been such a chat. I'm pissed off you didn't give Matthew any love here. I probably would have switched it out with my Canadian boy Caleb. Unfortunately, I'm on that page.
Wow, I'm surprised that you guys are both so, you know.
And he was only 19 votes away from tying Jesse. Like Caleb, we are never seeing, if they do a returning player season, we're not seeing it without Caleb if he wants to play, based on how his popularity in the community.
My thing with Caleb, I love him so much. He's such a good character and player, but I think just the shot in the dark being successful has kind of overhyped him too much for me. Like, yes, he is a really good Survivor player and everything, but I think the shot in the dark overshadows everything else that made him awesome.
Mm-hmm. I could see that. I do wonder though, like if he goes home that first tribal council, how many fewer votes is he getting in this? Because I still think he was incredibly popular before that. Obviously, that was like a big kind of punctuation on his game that he was able to like be the first one ever to do that correctly. But I still feel like people did like him a lot. And we are very recent. I think that's a big thing. We are seeing a trend here. Like we've already mentioned it. We have 545 players on. So, yeah.
Okay, so should we talk a little bit about, I know we're going to do the Brant steal. That's going to be what the culmination of this entire series is. But how do you think, if this was the actual cast for this season, if these were the 10 players, if we were looking at, hang on, I got it written down. I gotta look at it and pull it up here. But if you had Jesse, Caleb, Omer, Jake, Cody, and then on the other side, you had Carolyn, Emily, Kelly, Cassidy, and Sabaya. What are you seeing happen early on here with this cast?
I have an idea. What we should do is we should do a cast assessment, which we're already doing right now, and then we should do a bootless game, a fantasy draft, and all that before we get to the Brant steal.
Just really drag this out
that'd be
as
really
far as
fun.
we can.
Yeah.
This series has been fun. I don't want it to end.
So
we'll
by
keep
next
pumping out
April, we'll
episodes.
run the Brant steal. No, I mean, it is one though, because like, okay, so I actually pulled up the old second chances, the original second chance season. And it was fun to see how they broke that up and how people interacted. And a lot of people were thinking, oh, they're going to go along the lines of old school versus new school. And then that ended up not being the case. Now, we did see season 29 and season 28 go very, very far in the game. So there was definitely some season allegiance. But in this one, you have a lot of like fresh wounds. And I think fresh wounds are a bad thing for the New Era tribe, because Cody and Jesse, are they going to play together again? Probably not.
I think
they
so.
might start.
I think they would. I think they would.
Why? So Cody could get murdered again? Like, come on, man.
No.
I
think they still. I think they start together. I think they're pretty upfront with each other. And from what I've gathered, and I could be wrong, it doesn't seem like Cody is like. It's not like Grant from Redemption Island with Rob. You know, it's like Cody and Jesse are still like very close and very good friends. It's like, Phil, if we played, Werewolf, as we always talk about when we're recapping the Traders, our old days of playing Werewolf and Resistance and all that. Like, if I burn you really badly one time and we play again and realize we're both on the same team, we're going to work together at least for a little bit. So I don't, they are buddies.
Were you guys playing for $1 million?
Sometimes.
Something, yeah.
Hey, you don't know what we were wagering. We have gambling addiction. It's a crippling one. Yeah.
I think Cody would then play as like, hey, I'm at least to start. Like if they're on the same tribe to start, which they are, it's like they're gonna be buddy. And I don't think like Cody will have in the back of his head like, I need to kill Jesse before he kills me. But to start, they're gonna be friends.
So, Survivor Archive has said when you run the Brand still, do a recap and predictions episode for every single boot. There you go. We'll just cook, man.
Yeah, we'll just do the full gambit. Treat it like an international season of the show.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just have this take up our entire lives. When I look at this, I don't even know what would end up happening with Jesse and Cody. I do feel like Omer would probably be the one who everybody would be absolutely terrified of. And I think this is a fun way to look at it, right? For season 41, nobody was voted in. For season 42, Omer was the only one. Season 44 was also just Carolyn. So the other 8 people came from 43 and 45. Carolyn, I don't think people are going to be absolutely terrified of to the point where they say, oh my God, we got to vote her out first. Omer, though, is coming in. Yeah, he goes to all these parties, he goes to all these events, but he's also so revered as a strategist and as a Survivor player. Yeah, this is a made-up game that we just did. But do you think Omer coming back for returning player season, does he have the Yao Man downside as well, where he's just screwed from the day he steps foot on that beach?
I do think so.
I don't know if he's screwed, but I think he's definitely one of the people you circle. If you're on this tribe, who are we watching out for? I think you're watching out for Omer, and you are watching out for Jesse also, especially because you're like, wait, Jesse has Cody still? It's almost like a pair you need to split up. And I'm sure maybe, Cody and Jesse would play it off as if they're not together. But I think Jesse would be a big target early, and Omer absolutely would be also. And then maybe even Kelly, if we're doing this recent, like just from recency bias, I think people might look at Kelly. And I know Kelly didn't go as deep into the game, but I don't know. She was a good strategist, so I could see people wanting to keep an eye on her.
Okay, what about this though? It's a 10-person tribe. We got 5 people from season 45 and then 5 people from the other. Is it going to be 45 just want to stick together, try and get a vote early on, or will the 45s be split?
Jake wouldn't do it. Jake wouldn't do it even when he had the opportunity to try to do it in his own season. Like he was
wouldn't Jake want to do anything in his power to get numbers and be in control? And it's like,
so it would be easy for him. He 45 over and now it's 6-4.
That's true too.
Yeah.
I know, but like I think the 45 people can come together in a way that the other people would not be able to come together, because the 45 people, you have the 5, and so you have some sort of foundation, whereas like the other players, they're not unifying over anything common. They're just unifying that they get that they're not from season 45, which is like not as, and the cast they do. And I don't know, maybe Jake, if he's bumping around the track, and tell us, like, it looks like that whole cast is pretty close, and they have been seeing each other after the show. And would these 5 work together? I think so. And I wonder, who would he pull over if it was the 45 alliance? Who do you think they go after? Do they go after Omer and say, come on our side because you have no one from your season, and we will protect you, and you're going to be the biggest threat if you don't? Everyone's talking about Jesse and Cody already want you out. Boom.
Well, and Latcha Pro here says, I feel like Sabaya wouldn't want to stick with the 45 cash. She might be a little screwed by Emily. I mean, Sabaya might have suffered the biggest blind side. Cody definitely had the biggest, but Sabaya is the second biggest blind side of the new era at this point. I mean, she never saw that coming, and she had really done work with Caleb and with Emily, so she might just feel burned. Because also you have to think, if you're one of these other people, you made it deep in the game before you got burned. Sabaya got burned really, really early. I mean, what was she, the 3rd boot on that season or whatever? I don't know how many people quit before she got booted, but it's like she went out so early in the game that's going to sting a little bit more, because you never really got to play, and you're asking yourself a nonstop amount of what ifs in the time between getting voted off and getting back out there. I think Sabaya would probably be the one who might want to flip. Do you think that they would go Francesca her and say, I hate to be mean, guys, but why don't we just make her the first easy target here and let her just
let's just pre-merge the pre-merger? Yeah.
What did Tony call it? The lions and the sheep? It wasn't that. It was something else. But I think that might be something. Having all like your Omers, your Jessies, just trying to stay together as much as they can. And Sabaya would have been a great character, a great player, but she didn't make it far in the first time. So that might be a good thing to do.
I do think that's a good point too, Russell. Because this would be a fan vote, you're coming in with nothing but top tier threats. And I feel like that was the case with Second Chance the first time around too, which is why it was such a successful season. Yeah, you had Keith Nail, who probably was never going to win that season, but if he got there, he might have gotten the votes because he was just one of the most likable people to ever play this game. But you had nothing but top tier threats and like strategists and social players and physical players. They were all good. I would say everybody on that season could have won, probably except Abby Maria. And so when you look at this, though, that might actually help these massive threats, because if you're coming out there and you're Omer and you say, oh, good, I have Jesse. Let me keep Jesse as long as I possibly can, because he's going to be a bigger threat than I am. Oh, and if he keeps Cody too, now people are going to start saying, well, we got to get rid of at least one of them. Good. They're not looking at me now. I think that kind of gets lumped into this. And maybe that does put somebody like Sabaya at risk earlier than she probably should be. The one name we haven't brought up, though, out of the 10 people playing is Cassidy. We have not brought up where Cassidy would fall in this mix, being the only, well, I guess Carolyn also did not win after sitting at the final tribal council. Jake also. So, but like being somebody who everybody thought was going to win going to that final tribal council to get no votes, would people kind of forget that she was a threat coming into this because they're going to see it and say, well, she got 1 vote. Oh, she got 1 vote. So she's not.
Yeah, I don't think people would come into the gaming threatened by Cassidy. I think Emily strategically, or Kelly, you look at, especially Emily towards the end of her game, like she was playing everybody. She played Bruce. Her arc basically was this like woman who was rubbing people the wrong way, fell into the good graces socially, and then used that social capital to play a really cutthroat strategic game. And I think coming right off this season, Emily would be someone to look at like, hey, we can't let her get too far. Like, she has a great story. So I think Cassidy would be in a really prime spot to do well in a season like this. Like I might go Cassidy as my winner pick for this season. Still gotta see who the other tribe is, but I think Cassidy's someone who is very game aware. Didn't quite close it out in her season, but very capable of getting to the end again and pulling out the win.
And I think the best thing in her favor is that Gabler was the one who won her season, and he's not. I mean, I know that everybody who plays Survivor does actually think of Gabler as a solid player, because at this point, like, you've now experienced the game and get it. But maybe you're forgetting about that a little bit, that it's like, oh, Cassidy got to Final 3 and couldn't even beat Gabler. She's not going to beat me. And hey, that's the ego of a Survivor player. I don't fault it. It's a real thing. So maybe that's what they're saying. And Cassidy then actually has a better chance in this season to get her footing a little bit and get further in the game. And we were talking about how with the old school, we have a lot of older players. On this one, granted, they haven't had time to age because they all just played, but it is really like young. We did not get any of the older people onto this season.
Yeah, Mike didn't get votes. Tiffany didn't get the votes.
And those were really the only two, but like they were two really big older players and they did not get the votes at all. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see how this would play out. I mean, I do love this idea though, right? Because now you can say to yourself, okay, if this was the 10-person tribe, how excited would you be for this 10-person tribe? Like if this wasn't a fan vote, if you just heard, hey, we're going to do new school versus pre-40, which if we keep calling it old school, we're going to get like killed. So pre-40.
Oh, all my comments were awful.
Oh my God, dude. It's just like, yeah, it's pre-40. It's a divider. But would
39 is an old school?
Would you be pumped about this tribe?
Of course, I would be so pumped. I mean, we were the people who whittled down the 10 names and influenced the possibilities for this. So I think we mostly should be happy. And like I said, I think for the women, those were my top 5 women that made it in. And then I would only swap like one thing on the guy's side. So like I would be, this is near ideal for me. And then there's a couple of people I couldn't get on. Like Carla and Evie are people that I probably would have wanted to see here. But yeah, I still would be stoked for this 100%.
Yeah.
I think when you look at typical Survivor All-Star seasons, Cassidy is the winner pick. Cassidy's the winner pick you go with and probably has a good chance to win this game this season. Looking at this tribe, I have the thumbnail up on my screen just so I can see who's all made this tribe in this season. Gives me goosebumps. Like everyone in chat, like we're all fans of Survivor here. We love this show. And it makes me remember the days of the original Survivor Second Chance or Heroes versus Villains when Winners at War was first announced, whatever. Like this stuff, these players coming back, it fires me up. It gets me so excited. I don't know. Phil, what do you think? Do you think this is a good tribe? I think it's amazing.
Oh, no, I think it's great. I think that this really is like as good as we could have asked for. I think on the women's side, like I said, I would have had like a couple nitpicks here and there, but that's kind of like complaining about heroes versus villains. And then like, oh, well, they should have put somebody else instead of Danielle. Okay. But then Danielle actually was a big part of some of the better moments of that season. Same thing with Candace on the other side. So, it always comes down to what would they do? And there's a lot of players, pretty much everybody here is a gamer. Like, even if they're a gamer in a different way, they're all gamers. And I think that that's scary. Like Cody would probably be the least assuming. I actually think Cody would have a really good chance to win this season, even though when we were doing our picks, I was saying Cody couldn't win. I actually think he'd have a really good
chance. He definitely could. I think he always had more game in him than he let on. And maybe that the show let us on, just because we were getting so much of that strategy from Jesse, from that duo. That's who we were getting it from, where they needed to have the characters, be differentiated. They couldn't be talking about the same stuff. And we got more of a different energy and vibe from Cody. That's not to say that he couldn't be a strategist and win. I totally could see Cody having a real shot at winning.
Yeah.
It's so hard to say without seeing the actual other tribe yet.
That's true too.
Is there anyone in this group that you're like, oh shit, they're going to be holding us back in the challenges? Do you think this tribe is a good Survivor Challenge team? Like, are they capable of winning some challenges? Will they go to many tribals? In the new era we have, and now we only have 2 tribes here, but we usually have one tribe dominate. What are our thoughts on the challenges?
I think this probably wouldn't be like a dominant tribe, but I think you have Caleb as like you're probably your strongest male. Cody's pretty athletic. Jesse wasn't bad. Jake was pretty good. Omar was, no one's like, you're not looking at any of them like, wow, they are going to hold you back. I don't know if it's like the all-star team of challenge performers. And then on the female side, I feel like that's a pretty athletic group right there.
Yeah.
So you're going against the geriatric group too on the other side.
True.
That's what I mean. That's a great point. All those old school players in the 30s, I did that on
They
purpose.
played real Survivor.
We still got some young, some fresh blood, some young guns in that group. So,
as the producers of the season, did we make the decision? Is this a 39-day Survivor season or 26 days?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, I
is that
think
what
when
this is?
when we do the brand steal, I'm pretty sure the way you do it is you get to pick a season to base like, all right, when does the tribe swap happen? When did they merge? Like, is there a twist here? What advantages are in play? So you have to pick a season and go off of it. And I think a really fun season to pick for this would be Survivor Second Chances.
You think so? Yeah. You're gonna go with
Yeah.
that bold take there?
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of out there, but I think that would make sense for this. I don't know. I was just had this idea. Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I can't believe you came up with that idea all by yourself on that one. That's
Thank you.
wild.
Thank
But
you.
yeah.
I gotta pat myself
Yeah,
on
I
the
do
back
think
for
that would make the most sense. Now, okay. Let's kind of like dive in though. So if you were gonna pick your like without seeing the other tribe, if you were to just look at this tribe and say, okay, who would be my top pick to win? Who is your top pick to win from this tribe?
Xander.
You can't use Xander. Xander's, you're gonna confuse the people who are listening.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Well, I wanted to go Cassidy, but then Russell over here just threw me under the bus. Like, yeah, that's what everyone would pick. No, duh. Cassidy's the obvious choice. That's what
It is the obvious choice, Will.
That's
Come
what
on.
Survivor Facebook would pick for sure.
Are you a generalist or a specialist?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like Cassidy is a pretty sound pick. I see issues with a lot of the cast here. Let me just go through it one more time. Like, I do think Jesse, Caleb, Omer are like how do you let them get to the end? And then it's like, wait, how'd Tony win Winters of War? I still don't know how the hell.
Tony's a unicorn, though.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. So it's hard to use that as an argument, but hey, I think you're going to want to go after the biggest threats. You want someone more unassuming. Like Jeremy was the perfect one. He was actually my winner pick for the original Second Chance season because he didn't make it that far in season 29. He went out at the merge, but he was clearly a capable player that just had more game left, but people hadn't seen, his full game. On the women, so it's like it could be Cody or Jake, and then we got I don't know if Carolyn. I don't know if I really can see her like getting the votes. She could though. Kelly's a threat. Yeah, I don't know. I like Cassidy, but also I could see Jake. Jake would if I had to go, I'd go Cassidy or Jake probably. I'll stick with Cassidy for now because that was my first inclination before Russell made fun of me.
I mean, I probably like Cassidy the most too. So Russell, just keep making fun of Will. But yeah, I think actually, if I was going for anybody here, I think I'd say Cody. I really do. I think Cody would be somebody who could use everybody around him as a shield, and I think he knows how to do that. And I think he'd be on his toes this time around. He almost, and obviously she didn't win, and she didn't actually get that far her second time. But he kind of reminds me of like Sierra Dawn Thomas, where Sierra Dawn Thomas really figured out why she didn't win the first season and came out playing a totally different game the second time around. And it didn't work out for her, but her alliance ended up making it deep. And I think maybe that's where Cody would fit in and everybody would be so much bigger of a threat. I mean, Sierra paired up with a bunch of people who weren't threats. Cody would be maybe Jesse's like, hey, look, Omer, let's get together. Hey, Caleb, let's get together. Emily, let's get together and let's bring in Cody because he's an easy one. And then Cody's sitting there going, okay, cool. Now I'm going to be the one who gets to manipulate all of you against each other. And I think that would work.
Yeah,
I could see it.
I could see it. It's so tough with this hypothetical situation. I'm going to go with, for a lot of reasons, and I think mine is the only correct option here. We've had a bunch of Canadians win Survivor. So I think it's only fitting for this.
I think there's more
Americans.
Survivor. I think there's more Americans.
I think the percentage though is a little bit higher on the Canadian side. I'm going Caleb. I think in a season full of big threats, I think like the original Second Chance, you'll use the meat shield strategy. Sure, I think going into this season, Caleb is a bigger threat than what Jeremy was going into the original Second Chances, but there's other big dogs out there, right? We got Omer, we got Jesse. There's other big threats to surround yourself with. And I think Caleb's no joke when it comes to the social aspect of the game. If he can tone it down a little bit, I feel like it's his real self out there. But if he can tone it down just a tad to where it's not so threatening, we'll get another Canadian winner on Survivor.
Never gonna happen. Caleb would not win. No way. Way too big of a threat.
All right. Thanks for watching. I'm leaving now.
Yeah, exactly. Goodbye, Russell. No, but so let us know what you think. And I know some people in the chat are like, what's going on here? But it's if you haven't listened to the first 4 episodes of this series, like, yeah, this isn't gonna make much sense. We're talking about it. We picked our 10 people And then you all voted, and these were the top 5 in each of these 2 categories. And the voting for old school stops tomorrow at noon Eastern time. So we'll have the
So get your votes for Kellen in.
Yeah,
Okay?
you better hurry up and don't see if you can beat the system and put Kellen 5 times, because otherwise I don't think Kellen's getting over.
I'm
going
to
to
vote 300 times from Kellen, but I'm going to use 300 different email addresses. So it looks like a rampage of Kellen votes just comes in. You will not be able to detect who they came from.
I won't. There's no way I'd be able to figure it out. But yeah, so so go ahead and vote. You got until noon tomorrow. And this was the New Era tribe. So going through it one more time, on your men's side, you had Jesse, Caleb, Omer, Jake, and Cody. In that order was the amount of votes they got. And on the women's side, you had Carolyn, Emily, Kelly, Cassidy, and Sabaya. So that was the 10 that you all voted for. And that would be 1/2 of this season that we are putting together right now, and that we will run the Brand Steel simulation for in 2 weeks. Now, next week is obviously Super Bowl Sunday. So in all likelihood, we will be podcasting Monday again. Although Russell's probably begging us to not do that since he gets up at like 4 a.m. on Tuesdays. But here we are, alas. He signed up to go with Will on the West Coast, and look where we are now. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to throw in about this before we wrap it up?
I think we should make sure in this season, like Survivor Game Changers, how Ozzy was on reward. I think Heather should be on reward.
Heather should be the reward.
That's actually very funny. And I wonder what the Brant Steele... Oh, wait, no, that was Game Changers.
That was Game Changers.
We're doing second chance format for the Brant Steele. So we don't get that special surprise visit.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Other than that, all I got to say is go Niners and vote for Kellen.
So
Chimina Ramos, I'd rather have happened. Niners win the Super Bowl or Kellen make it on to the second?
Niners win the Super Bowl. Chimina Ramos says, can you post the voting links in the description? They're not easy to get to. They're in each of the other ones. And the only reason I don't want to post it here is because we literally have like 12 hours before the voting closes. So I feel like when people are watching it tomorrow, Will, what do you think? Should I post the links in here too?
There's 12 hours left.
Yeah.
Go find
Why not?
it.
And then is it possible for people, now that the New Era ones have closed, when you click on them, can you set it so it shows results publicly? Because I think people would like to look at how the voting worked out. I always find that stuff interesting. And
do you think I closed it? Do you think I closed it, or you think I just screenshotted it and sent it to you guys right at noon?
We'll post it on Twitter.
I don't know. I'm just saying, like, post.
Yeah, we'll have Russell post it on Twitter.
Yeah.
Russell post it on Twitter, because I did not actually stop the thing. I just took the screenshot. I didn't even think to do that, to be honest with you, Will.
That's a good idea. That's why they pay you the big bucks.
That's why they pay him the big bucks.
Yeah, we got to. I tweeted out because I do think it'd be fun. So, and then we have someone who just said, "Time to create 300 emails and vote for Dean."
Dean needs help.
Dean might need some help also. But if you're gonna do that with those 300 emails, just make sure to use those same emails for Kellen, and that way you don't have to make 600 emails. So.
I'm not listening anymore because I'm having to put this together.
Phil is over this.
No, I'm putting in the link
that we have going with the fans, but the fans and me are creating emails, and we are getting Kellen onto the season.
Kellen and Dean, if they end up making it, I will say that the votes.
You're gonna raise an eyebrow. In the last 8 hours of voting, Dean and Kellen saw an incredible surge.
Well, this is like when they did vote for the worst with American Idol. They did vote for the worst, and like those people would just keep voting for that guy Sanjaya, and Sanjaya kept winning, and that like broke Simon Cowell. He just could not take it anymore. So that's essentially what's happening over here. And if you look now, if you go and you check the form, everybody, being the hero that I am, if you go and check the form, it has been saved. Hopefully, the stream must be. Oh, I can't. Okay, hang on. I got to do it somewhere else. All right, guys.
Oh man,
we're gonna figure it out. You know what? I can't.
Let's get this cast assessment going. We got a new season.
We got to do it.
In addition to the Brand Steel, we also have a real season of Survivor coming up, and we are going to break down the cast. I've watched each of their 1-minute videos, and then that's all I've got. And then
that's
Phil,
impressive. I haven't even done that.
There's this PowerPoint that Phil will not shut up about. So I am very excited to see it.
It's a great PowerPoint. It shows the players. It's crazy. It's this crazy thing. But I did just post the links. They are now in the description. So if you refresh, they will be in the description.
Great.
Great.
But
right,
yes, subscribe, please. If you
like this video,
like the video. I know it's annoying for us to say, but we got to say it. And please do it. Please, it just takes, you just move your mouse. So you go click for a little thumbs up. It goes like this. And you click on the red thing, subscribe, and you go click. And then it's like boom, and then you're good.
And turn on notifications while you're at it.
And then you get
no. Don't turn on notifications. Notifications are annoying. I mean, unless you want to be with us live, but like if you just want to listen to this podcast or like watch the video later, like subscribe and then turn off notifications. Then subscribing has no negative consequences for you, and you don't get annoying notifications.
But if
Fun
you want
fact: subscribing doesn't matter. All you gotta do is watch the whole video, and YouTube loves it for you. So do that.
Yeah, but I want you to subscribe too, because for my own pride, I want to be at 20,000 subscribers by the end of season 46. So everybody get over there and start clicking.
So we need to do a lot of work then.
We need to double. Yeah. We need to double. So that we don't need to do any work, Will. We need people to click subscribe. But yeah, become patrons too. If you're thinking about, if you want extra Survivor content, we're going to be going and doing the cast assessment next for season 46. And we're going to get into all of the preseason content that we're going to be doing. And we have some patron exclusive content like we always do with the power rankings in the fantasy game. So go ahead, tune into that. That'll be over there. And that's it. That's all we got. We'll be back again next week when we break down the pre-40 / old school tribe. But for those of you who are excited about Survivor season 46, Phil and Will's cast assessment coming next. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time.